Good afternoon. I would like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the September 14, 2023 meeting of the City County Planning Board. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's meeting is being broadcast live on TV 13 and will be rebroadcast at 10 a.m. Friday morning and again at 4 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Our first order of business today will be the consent agenda. These are items for which the petitioner is requesting withdrawal or continuance, or items for which staff has recommended approval and no one has signed up to speak in opposition. For public hearings today, each side will have a total of 12 minutes. There will be no rebuttal period. Once the public hearing is closed and the board goes into work session, no one is permitted to speak unless a planning board member asks them a question. For general use district zoning requests, the planning board must consider the full range of uses allowed in the zoning district being requested. The petitioner may not refer to a specific use for the property. For special use district zoning requests, however, the petitioner must identify the intended use or uses of the site and give specific details on how the site will be developed. Items under Section B of the agenda will require final action by the appropriate elected body, that being either the City Council or County Commissioners. As such, votes taken today by the Planning Board concerning these items are recommendations that will be considered by the elected bodies during their review of the requests. Before addressing the Planning Board, we will need your name, address, and zip code for the record. I would like to recognize State Senator Joyce Kravick in the audience with us today. Thank you for being here, as always. Good seeing you. Our first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the August 10th and August 24th meetings. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any further discussion? Those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That is unanimous. Thank you. I'm now going to call on Mr. Mark Allred to review the consent agenda for today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First up, we got is case B1. This is W3588. Petitioner, City of Winston-Salem. This is a conversion of Forsyth County MUS to City of Winston-Salem MUS. This is 28.12 acres, multiple locations along Brookberry Farm Circle and Maple Chase Lane. You can see from the aerial that this area, at least at the time of the area was being developed, you can see some grading on some of the lots. The area plan has this as single-family residential. The request is consistent with the recommendations of both Legacy 2030 and the area plan. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? All right, no one has signed up in opposition. Is anyone here opposed to this? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. What is the position of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move the planning board find that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That is unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I further move the planning board recommend approval of W3588. Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you. That clears.
Yeah. Next case is B2. This is W3589. Petitioner is Our Father's House Baptist Church Incorporated. This is a limited use rezoning from RS9 to institutional and public limited use. It's 2.19 acres at the southwest intersection of South Main Street and Rink Road. The area shows this is already a developed site. You can see the church on the western portion of the site. The area plan has this as institutional. So the reason for the rezoning is we are asking for a condition. The request would limit the property to one freestanding monument sign and require that it be located along South Main Street. The request is consistent with the recommendation of both Legacy 2030 and the area plan. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
Any questions for staff? All right, no one has signed up. Is anyone here opposed to this recommendation? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. What is the motion of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move the planning board find the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign.
Mr. Chairman, I further move the planning board recommend approval of W 3589.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That is unanimous.
Next is case B3. This is W3590. The petitioner is Gilberto Castro and Esmelda Ruiz. This is a rezoning of highway business special use to highway business at 0.22 acres on the southeast intersection of West 27th Street and Collins Street. So the history to this is a petitioner reached out about a group home, and planning staff discovered that the HBS zoning that you see here, that this was incorrectly assigned to them. This was never a special use rezoning property. It was zoned HB is what it should have been and should not have had a special use. Because it was incorrectly zoned right now, this property has no site plan attached to it and no approved uses. So it literally is a piece of property that you cannot use. The mapping error occurred in 1995 during the adoption of the UDO, and rezoning the property to highway business would correct the mapping error. Again, you see the aerial here. You see that it is a developed site with a single-family residential house. The area plan is the North Central Winston-Salem area plan. Recommends single-family residential in recognition of the existing house that's on the property. The rezoning request is to correct a mapping error made in 1995 by the planning staff.
Any questions for staff? All right, no one has signed up. Is anyone here opposed to this recommendation? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. What is the motion of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move the planning board find that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Motion by Mr. Lamb,
Second.
second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes? That is unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I further move the planning board recommend approval of W 3590.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes? That is unanimous.
Next case is B4. This is W3174. This is petitioner's Glen Crossing Associates LLC. This is a final development plan of 1.32 acres at the northwest intersection of Union Cross Road and Union Glen Avenue. You can see from the aerial that this site's already been prepped for development. This is the area plan which recommends commercial for the subject property. The site plan is a 4,239 square foot car wash right here on the eastern portion of the property. There is a requirement of 20 parking spaces. They are proposing 25. There is sidewalk connections to both Glen Avenue and Union Glen Avenue. There is no internal sidewalk connection to Union Cross Road due to the topography here. It's quite steep. Here is the elevations. This meets the elevation conditions of F1434 being mostly brick. And this site meets the UDO requirements and the conditions of F1434.
That's funny. All right, any questions for staff? No one has signed up. Is anyone here opposed to this recommendation? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move the planning board find that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That is unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I further move the planning board recommend approval of W 3174.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That is unanimous.
So next we have is case C1. This is W3591. The petitioner is Burke, et cetera, LI LLC. This is an elected body special use permit for use-specific setbacks and for outdoor enclosure for a kennel indoor. So this is on 0.44 acres on the north side of Country Club Road between Rhinedale and Southwind Drive. You can see on this site that it's totally surrounded by highway business on all sides. The petitioner is requesting a reduction in the following items. So this is the existing commercial building that you see right here. The building rear setback for indoor kennel is 40 feet, and this existing building is 35 feet. So you just need a reduction for rear setback to 35 feet. The side setback is 20 feet, and the existing building has a setback here of 5 feet. So he needs a reduction side setback of 5 feet here. He's also asking for outdoor enclosure rear setback reductions of 5 feet to 5 feet for the rear setback and 5 feet for the side. So if you can see the proposed fencing that kind of comes around here, that does that. So outside of the reductions, this site does meet UDO requirements.
Any questions for staff? Is there a motion for the board?
Move, staff recommends approval. Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes? That is unanimous.
Okay, this is case D1, subdivision 2022116, Taylor's Run Phase 2. This is a withdrawal of a 9-lot subdivision, 10.45 acres on the south side of Fry Bridge Road. So here's the subdivision that was approved back in September of 2022. So the petitioner decided to go in a different direction, so they're asking to withdraw the subdivision.
Move we approve the request for withdrawal.
All right, motion by Mr. Lamb.
Second.
Second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is unanimous.
Right. Case E1, this is PBR 2023-06. So this is the petitioner's Urban Development Group, LLC. The name of this development is formerly Salem Crest Apartments. They have changed it to Carolina Landmark Properties. Due to the topography, you can kind of see from this location map, you see all this flooding area. There's a lot of topography here. They had to reduce their request, which was 153 units in your agenda, to 135 apartment units in a RM18 district. Okay, so again, the proposed PRD site plan shows a total of 135 apartment units between these two buildings. This is a density of 9.5 units per acre. It's served by multiple private streets, with the primary access to the site will be off Salem Crest Lane, which you see here in the middle. The petitioner is providing 3 common rec areas, 1 indoors and 2 outdoors. The development is required to have 234 parking spots and providing 243. The site plan meets all UDO requirements. Oh, I went ahead of myself, my fault. Here is the elevations. So the buildings are the same elevations, but the change here is, if you see on this, the parking lot is now in between the buildings and the street. So these buildings will be further apart. They won't be right up on the street that you see here. So yeah, that's the change that you see from the elevation, but the buildings themselves will remain the same. And the site plan does meet all UDO requirements, and staff does recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is unanimous.
And next case is E2 PBR 2023-16. This is the petitioner's Dream Built Construction Incorporated. The subdivision is known as Stonebriar. This is a 25-lot PRD in RS9. Again, this is similar. The original application was for 26 lots, but they had to reduce it by 1 to get it to fit in with the PRD requirements. This is 5.9 acres on the north side of the intersection of West Clemensville Road and Crite Street. Again, you can see here it's a basic 25-lot PRD that has the 20-foot buffer yard surrounding the property, 1 public street here, 1 central active open space, and a stormwater device on the southeast. This does meet UDA requirements, and staff does recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Grubbs. Any discussion? All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That is unanimous.
And next up is case E3. This is PBR 2023-17. The petitioner Sistanio LLC. The subdivision name is Vedic Village. This is a 181-lot PRD in RS40. The total acreage is 214.88 acres, and it is in between Box Mountain Road, you see here on your east, and Providence Church Road over here on your west side. The density of this development is 1 unit per 1.18 acres. So when you're looking at this map, these three thick green lines you see here on the site, this is your trails. They have a lot of active open space trails sort of connecting between the neighborhood. The purple lines that you see here in dash marks, these are your private septic lines, which I'll go in a little more detail here in a minute, and your red polygons are your septic areas. They all have numbers that correlate to numbers you're going to see here that I'm going to talk about here on this slide. So here as an example, this is section 6 that you see here, this number. Each lot will have their own pump that will be pumped into a private sewer, which will then come across and be pumped to a, I'm not the sewer expert, it's a tank, for lack of a better term, a tank that holds the sewer. And then the sewer, as you can remember, this is number 6. You can see here on this site plan, this is number 6. It'll come out in this field. So this septic field will treat the sewage for these lots here. Again, you see the different areas. Each number correlates to different numbers on the houses. There will be 2.07 miles of NCDOT maintained road, 4 active open spaces that are agriculturally based, and a 6,000 square foot community building. This site does meet all UDO requirements, and staff does recommend approval.
I have a question.
Yes.
On these lift stations or pumps or whatever, if they go out and the homeowner association or lot owner association doesn't have the funds to replace these things, what's the ramifications?
You know, it's one of those things where the devil is kind of, so to speak, in the details. That's one of the concerns that the commissioners have a lot of times with some projects that are proposed that have private, these are individual grinder pumps with septic systems that then get into a common system and then go and feed a common drainage area. The commissioners oftentimes have these concerns where you have a private lift station that then pumps into a public sewer, with the fear that if there is too severe of a failure to the pump or those kind of things, that essentially folks are going to be left hanging. And there's not an easy answer to that question. From that perspective, from the central pump kind of thing, a lot of times those are going to be multifamily that's going to continue to be owned by a single entity. In a case like this right here, one of the things that it took us a while to get to this point, because we had a lot of concerns related to how the septic system in and of itself was going to work. So we asked for them to provide us with a lot of details so that we could, with a straight face, tell you that we think what is proposed will in fact work. The General Assembly have some things in the statutes that essentially say if you have a qualified professional, whether it be an engineer or a qualified soil scientist, and they certify that a plan will work, the local health department nor the state of North Carolina can say, no, it won't. It's going to take money in the homeowners association to ensure the future viability of the common septic fields, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, last question then. So since the septic fields are numbered according to the lots, there's a matching lot per septic field, right? So what if one, go ahead.
There's a matching set of lots per field. I believe the way they have this set up, it's they have a cluster of a number of lots that then go to a corresponding cluster of a septic field.
So if one of those clusters goes out and they need a replacement field, does that become a general common area assessment, or is that just on those lots that are served by that common septic field?
It's my understanding that similarly to whenever you have your own individual septic permit, there's also a repair area. Mm-hmm. There is a septic area for each of these areas and a separate repair area for each of these areas. I don't know that specifically answers your question. Like I said, I would assume that if you're buying into this and you have a homeowners association and there is some type of a common system, that there's going to be some type of an assessment that will go towards that. But again, this isn't a situation where you have a private utility such as, I can't think of what heater is called today, but a lot of times you have privately licensed utilities in the state that are authorized to operate a package plant or those kind of things. I'm assuming that what they would do is they would have an assessment as part of their homeowners association that would be responsible for ultimate maintenance.
As long as the engineer is certifying that his system meets the General Assembly statute, then that ends it for the local decision-making process.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's no bonding requirement or anything?
And again, I can't get into what the permitting requirement is with the state and the local health department.
But that's not commonly used, the common practice.
We're seeing so many of these substandard streets that are private streets and these a little bit older, 30 and 40-year-old, types of small developments and things like that. Town can't bring, or the municipality can't bring them into the maintenance programs because they don't meet street standards and things like that. It just seems like it's a...
Well, and again, you're right, and that's one of the reasons why the city and the county started requiring private streets to meet the public street standards.
Right, that's a good rule.
Even if you can have private streets, but you got to build into public street standards because 20 years from now, when it comes time to resurface that, if you don't have the money to do that, if it was built to the public street standards, you might have to spend a certain amount of money to make the repairs before the city or the state will take those roads over. But if it wasn't built to any standard, no one's ever going to take them over.
Yep. Okay.
And Mr. Lamb, just to add to what Chris was saying, if you look at this image here to the top left, you can see for system area number 4, they've actually got 2 different repair areas planned out.
Okay.
So again, the engineer who did this work is really trying to have some redundancies and make sure this can last for the long term. But as Chris said, it's definitely going to be something that the HOA is going to have to stay on top of, and whether that's done on a sub-breakdown between different phases of developments or the costs are spread across the whole development, that's just something that remains to be seen and is kind of a private matter between those property owners.
Oh, will an HOA be required?
Yes, because it's a PRD.
Okay, there you go.
There also
Thank
will
you.
be environmental health. There will be a regulatory agency looking over it.
Yeah.
Permit requirements, inspections, probably not any effluent testing or anything, but.
My issue is the practical issue. HOAs, always want the dues to be as low as they can possibly be. There's never adequate reserves for streets or, any major thing like that. So that's it.
Yeah, that's the deal.
Did you finish with yours?
Yeah, I am finished.
I move approval.
Motion by Mr. Lamb, is there a second? Second by Mr. Grubbs. Any further discussion? Great discussion. All those in favor, sign of aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. That is unanimous. We'll now go to our staff report.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that was even faster than I thought it would be. Under staff report, I'm first going to turn to Kirk, who'll give you a preview of your work session 2 weeks from today.
All right, good afternoon again, board members. For the second month in a row, we have one item on the work session. We're going to be doing a briefing. Jason Thiel from the Downtown Partnership is going to be coming over and presenting the 2023 update to the downtown plan. Our staff worked with the staff of the partnership and a wide group of stakeholders, downtown stakeholders on that plan for the last year or so, and that is scheduled for your October public hearing. So far, that's the only thing we have on work session, and we will keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Board, next I'll turn to Mark, who'll give a October zoning case preview. It's a few more cases than you had today, but some of them are conversions as well.
Yeah, so what we have here is a October 2023 planning board cases. There's 11 new rezoning requests, but 3 of them are conversions for annexations. We do have 1 public hearing on the downtown plan and 1 new planning board review coming in next month.
So probably budget a little more time than 30 minutes for that meeting. The final item I had under staff report is to turn to Amy. I know we're going to have work session before we actually have our series of Forward 2045 meetings, but in order to keep those dates fresh in your mind, I want her to go over those, and we'll go over them again 2 weeks from today. So.
Just a little update, we are up to 1,659 29 survey responses. And so if you want to take your survey, please do so, forward2045.com. And so the dates, we have 9 meetings at 8 locations throughout the month of October. So October 3rd, which is a Tuesday, that'll be at the Milton Rhodes Center for the Arts. There'll be 2 meetings, one over lunch, 11:30 to 1:30, and then in the evening, 5:30 to 7:30. Then we skip a week, and we start up Tuesday, October 17th. That's at the Enterprise Center, Enterprise Conference and Event Center. That's on Martin Luther King Drive, and that's at 5:30 to 7:30. Then we have Wednesday, October 18th. That will be at the Alice Watts Tuttle Community Center, which is in Tobaccoville. And that will be from 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday, October 19th, we'll be at the Walkertown Library, which is on Main Street in Walkertown. And that's 5:30 to 7:30. Monday, October 23rd, it will be this is a location change. We had to change the location due to COVID vaccine. So it'll be actually, instead of the public health building, it'll be at social services right next door. That again will be 5:30 to 7:30. And then Tuesday, October 24th, we'll be at Union Cross Elementary School in their gym. That's on High Point Road, and that's 5:30 to 7:30. Wednesday, October 25th, we'll be at the Mary Alice Warren Community Center in Louisville. That's from 6 to 8. And then the last meeting will be Tuesday, October 30th at the South Fork Community Center from 5:30 to 7:30. We will also be at Apple Fest next weekend.
The health fair?
No, not the health fair. We already did the health fair. The Forsyth, no, wait.
Yeah.
The 23rd, it's Apple Fest, and then we'll be at the Public Health Social Services Campus for the Forsyth County Fun Fest. And then we'll be at the fair the following weekend as well.
On October the 3rd, there are 2, correct?
Yes.
And I had Mo down for the 11:30 to 1:30 slot, and she can't make that. Can someone make that?
What date?
Tuesday, October 3rd.
I didn't bring my phone in.
If you'll check and let me know, if not, I'll have to make arrangements. All right.
Just FYI, I mean, we can send this out via email again, and we can also have copies at your work session. Again, we didn't expect y'all to write all those down. We're just trying to keep it fresh on your mind. But we can have copies at your work session 2 weeks from today as well. I do want to point out that we have worked with Human Relations. We're going to have Spanish language interpreters at 3 of those meetings, and they're going to be identified on the information that we distribute, which meetings that those will be at, to make sure that folks understand that if there's a language barrier, we've got 3 meetings you can come to and get assistance. And that's specifically through human relations. We also have our own staff, some of which are bilingual. If folks show up at a meeting, generally speaking, we should always have someone there that would be able to converse.
Perfect.
And just for folks to reiterate, the meetings will be a presentation format to begin with, followed by sort of a world cafe of 4 tables, where folks will go sort of around the tables, talk about specific items with interactive activities, sort of dot exercises, post-it note exercises as well. So it's not a full drop-in, come in anytime. It's, if you want to hear the presentation, we start at that start time.
All right.
Mr. Chairman of the Board, that's all I have.
All right. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
We'll have a motion to adjourn.
Second. Have a second. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.